orange tip. So yeah, we're on our way to TAC right now, and you know, I kind of wanted to talk to you about your origins in this sport, like how you guys started. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of parallels in like how SYG started, in that like it's just a group of friends playing together, and then you know, you'd ask another friend to join. So like, tell me the story about that. Like, how did the OGML team, like, what are their origins? How'd you guys start?
Well, it started off when we first started playing at Airsoft Playground. There were 2 big teams at that time, and those 2 teams were TAC Force and SWAT. And everybody else was just like public games. They're just public people that were just playing. So it was me, Nate, Max, Jackal, which is Darrell. Who else was there? Roland, Pint, Half Pint. Yeah.
An interesting thing about most teams that they all kind of have this tryout process, or like a hazing period. You know, like what was that process like for ML, and like what did it take for someone to get in the team?
Well, the first two that started was originally me and Nate, and then everybody else kind of grandfathered in. But the way we did our trial process, we had this thing called the Gauntlet, and man, we only had a couple members.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, we only had a couple members that ran through it. But basically, it was 1 versus the entire team. The person gets 2 high cap mags, and they play without a shirt. It was either a shirt or no gloves. So the first person to do it was Brian. His name was he goes by Guido. I ran down the middle, jumped over a hay barrier, and slid right under him and just drilled his back. And he just went onto the floor crying. And then we just went to town on him. You know, that was the gauntlet. You had to go through the gauntlet to get on the team. That's after they prospected with us for a while, but it was one final push, you know.
Right. So you know, now that obviously we have a member that used to be an OGML player, Sosa, who's now in SYG.
Yeah.
What was that? What was the process for his prospecting like? Because I'm pretty sure that was a little different because he was significantly younger than you guys. How old was he when he started?
Man, he started playing when he was like 10 or 11, but he tried out for us probably when he was like about 16. He didn't go through the gauntlet, but so what happened was that I was coming back from work, and Nate called me up and he's like, hey, I got 2 guys that I want you to watch. I want to put them on the team, right? And for him to actually call me and say that says a lot about that person, because normally we're just like, oh yeah, he's good, and we just kind of look over him, right? But he actually called me and said, look at this kid, Little Sosa, kid that looks like a girl. And I was like, yeah, that's Sosa. I was like, are you sure? I'm like, all right. So I got on top of the bunker, the ref's bunker, and I put my mask on. I was watching him. 3, 2, 1, go. The match goes, and Sosa gets tagged out. This is the first game. Sosa gets tagged out within like 3-4 seconds. Just run in, boom, out.
What else is new?
So he got out, and I was sitting up there, and I was like, okay, well, that's just great. Boom, switch sides. Another time happens. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Ref blows a whistle. He shoots down, different lane this time, gets tagged out again in 5 seconds. So I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Yeah, he was hella nervous. He was nervous. Did it, and this happened. It wasn't just 2 times. It was a good like 4 rounds. Game's over. We're back in the public room. I climbed down from the ref tower, and I'm like, this is a fucking waste of my time, dude. So I'm walking, and I just peek over, and I see him. Dude is sobbing on alley. He's just like, I'm not good enough. I fucked up. I fucked up. Yeah. And in my head, I was like, I should leave right now and just leave that imprint on him. You know? Yeah. No, I stayed and watched him a little bit. And, I mean, the kid's a player. He's a player. He can play.
He belongs to like multiple generations of Airsoft. Yeah. That's what's interesting about him, is that he was there from the very beginnings of, you know, the Southern California, you know, airsoft, competitive airsoft culture. You know, and
that hard, like, in your face, like, gameplay.
Yeah, because I mean that existed even before, like,
before me,
even before you, even before I showed up, and the rest of the guys on SYG showed up. So like, it's always interesting to hear these stories, because like, I guess back then I never really knew that there was already like a competitive base, or that there were people that were really hungry for this type of competitive airsoft culture. Maybe describe, you know, how the airsoft culture was more. I know you mentioned there was very few teams, not that many platforms for people to compete against each other. What were the struggles there, and like what were the hills that you guys had to climb to make that happen?
When I first started, there were 3 big teams: TAC Force, SWAT, and Blackwatch. Okay. When it came down to it, Blackwatch was like GI's team, TAC Force was like Evic's team, and SWAT was Hendrix's team. And Hendrix is a monster. If you don't know about Hendrix, I mean, if you're a real person back like in my day when we were playing, you knew who Hendrix was.
Was this already when he's at Echo 1 or is this?
He was, he was
Jag
there.
or what?
Yeah, he was there.
Okay, so
he's
kind of like
the
all
guy.
factory, technically factory teams.
They all had their techs, and their techs made their guns fucking shoot laser beams out of their guns. You know, there were no platforms to play competitively, but Airsoft Playground held a tournament, and it was crazy because all these teams out of nowhere just showed up. I mean, of course you had like TAC Force and SWAT, and they were placed on different brackets, and it ended up becoming TAC Force versus SWAT. And when that game went, it was like just a fucking miss the BBs. 3, 2, 1, go, miss the BBs. You know, you're talking about box mag P90 shooting 40 a second using a LiPo brick and just holding down a lane, just hail of BBs at you. You know, that was the format. You know, and imagine getting shot by one of those. They would just light you up and hold it.
So that's like the beginnings are obviously very raw.
Yeah,
very hardcore. I mean, it sounds like no one really cared about getting hurt, you know, or no one cared about rate of fire.
This was a good like 40. I want to say 40. Everybody's running high caps. You know, we had Echo 1 mags that would hold 500 BBs. You know, and then you put that in a Polar Star that's shooting instant 40. You're gonna kill people, you know.
Right.
So,
and that was in the very beginning.
That was
Polar Stars first showed up.
Even before Polar Stars came out. I mean, we were running like, you know, torque motors, speed gears, and it was just kind of in your face kind of thing. You know, but that's how we grew up. We grew up with that kind of play style. Engagement distance didn't matter. I mean, we were playing just to fucking play. Right. You know, we didn't have all this like, you know, crying about stuff. It was like, if you're 5 feet from me and I'm in good cover and we're in cover, we're gonna duke it out until somebody calls in.
Right. So it sounds like things were pretty thick for a while. Like, what caused it to kind of go away?
What happened was that I guess that Airsoft became more public, and more players started to generate more interest in the sport and hobby.
Right.
And obviously, if you're shooting 40 BBs a second, you lay into a kid, it's not gonna go so well.
Right.
So at the same time, we wanted to make sure the sport grows, you know. But at that time, there was nothing competitive.
Right.
There was nothing competitive. It was only
outside
events.
of maybe like ACA, right? Or that was like a little bit later on, right?
Yeah, ACA. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing competitive after that. I would actually message teams. I messaged a whole bunch of teams if they wanted to scrimmage.
Right.
You know, just come down, we'll play. Whatever happens, you know.
So like it sounds like, you know, where you guys started and where you guys came from, there's something that bubbled up and then it kind of fizzled out a little bit, right? And then I think what happened was when you guys were active, I think that's when, you know, we came into the picture. Like I came into TAC by myself one day. I went to EVIC, bought a PTS Masada, because that gun had like the technology that I was already used to, because I come from paintball, so they had a micro switch trigger. So I had a lot of fun. You know, I brought Ramon to go play. Ramon brought Lyndon, who's lefty, to play, and then after that, Royce joined up. So that was the original 4. And I think the second wave, I believe, it seemed like it was teams like, you know, ML, us, who later became SYG, and then there was MIA, who was made up of what I think it was Figgy at the time. I think at one point Sosa played on MIA as well. I forget the chronological order of everything.
Edwin was on there. I think Manny was on there.
And Roosta was part of MIA as well. Like that's the OG squad. And a little bit later on in the OG North culture, I think there were teams like STD, who was made up of guys like STD. That was really their name. That team was made up of guys like Jonathan, who now runs N1 Project N1 on Monty, Matt, Joseph. And I think there are a few others that I'm forgetting right now. I thought it was a very interesting story. The way things worked out based on timing and how everything played out is when we met each other, and like when we decided to like, we're gonna you know, compete, we're gonna get down, and like why don't you tell me the story, like how you saw it from your perspective?
Well, you were the first, actually, no bullshit aside, all bullshit aside, you were the first team to actually give us like an okay, let's scrimmage. I had messaged Team Rainbow, Cloud9, all the ACA teams. I had messaged everybody, and nobody wanted to come play against us. But I saw a video of you guys on YouTube, and I was like, hey, these guys actually kind of play aggressive. They move fast. Let's ask them. So I messaged you, and within an hour you responded. You're like, I'm fucking down. And I was like, yes.
I was hungry for that shit.
Yeah, we were hungry for that shit because I mean we had gone. I mean I had asked so many teams, and everyone's like, nah, we don't want to play you guys. I mean, that first game, you remember we were all loading up, and we rolled deep. We had all of our guys there. Even Hendrix was there playing. And that first game, I remember running up to the 50 or the 60, and I got tagged. I got tagged. That was probably you, yeah. I got tagged on my shoulder, called myself out, and I waited at the dead box. And then all of a sudden, I see ML, one ML member, maybe one SYG member, one ML, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, you know? So go into the A staging room or whatever load room, right? And everyone's there all quiet and shit. And I yelled at everybody, and I was like, what the fuck are you guys all doing? You know, I'm like, we were the fucking originals here. Let's play with some fucking pride. And I remember calling Jackal, I called him Darrell, and I was like, Darrell, you're fucking being a bitch. And I told Roland, I was like, you gotta stop being in the back, and you gotta fucking play, you know? And then I think we wiped you after that a little bit.
Yeah. The way I remember it is like I can never keep track of how it exactly went because we were just both teams were just playing hard, coming for each other, just like playing for blood basically. Although it never felt like negative, I never felt like there was any type of like it was always very like sportsmanlike and like it was just we were just very competitive with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's what brought the best out of both teams at the time.
In that sport,
yeah.
It went from hobby to sport into a competitive sport in that moment. I mean, that was great. We had fucking hella games there, but that was great.
Because I remember my perspective of you guys when we first started playing. I noticed you guys even before I knew what your team was called.
Yeah.
Is mostly because of the loadouts. You guys rocked the OD green. Probably one of the earliest teams that I saw rock a die I4.
Yeah.
Wearing head wraps. So to me, coming from paintball, I was like, oh, this looks familiar to me.
Yeah.
So that automatically made me associate the way you guys looked with how you guys played, and that's what kind of caught my eye.
Yeah. Plus, our paintball, we were snap shooting a lot.
Yep.
A lot of snap shooting. I mean, we were running. Maybe the first mass I had was a V-Force, and then I graduated to like a Proto.
Yeah.
And then we saw the die mass, which was super, super thin. And we could mount our cameras on there. Not to mention that it looked super aggressive too. But we were the only team at that time to use paintball tactics in that kind of environment. We would snap shoot, get to cover real quick, slide into cover, get real close, snap shoot, pop one guy up and move.
Yeah.
And then we had covers for each other, and it worked.
I guess the one thing I really remember about you guys is that you guys were much harder targets than what I was familiar with when I first came in. When I was in college, I played paintball from probably like 2001 up until like 2005. So I already, the kind of person I was, like I was always very scrappy anyways.
Yeah.
As I got older, I needed another outlet to do that, but I didn't want to get into any trouble. So like paintball was a way for me to kind of like take my fucking youthful angst out on people. And like it was within a sport, so like it made it okay. Like for me to act this way. And like anyways, what happened was I had I competed from 2001 all the way to 2005. I was really, really heavy into the sport, like to the point where I was like getting distracted in school. So like, I had to quit playing paintball in order for me to focus on what I was studying.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
you had to quit.
I had to. There's no way. Like paintball, like any other type of like sport, it's a lifestyle. You almost have to like eat, sleep, breathe, fucking shit that to really progress in that sport. And then I quit playing paintball. Finished school, started working, and I just had this itch. So then I looked into it. I was like, oh, there's airsoft fields where I can go play during the weekends. So I went by myself. I played 1 or 2 times. Told my homie Ramon, hey man, I've been trying to get this guy to play paintball for like almost a decade at this point. Yeah.
He was a good shot.
Yeah. But like, it was just easy for me to tell my friends, like, hey, let's play airsoft.
Yeah.
And then
it's very easy. It's super accessible.
It's accessible. Yeah.
And the BBs are cheap.
And guns aren't as expensive, and so basically we just started playing as friends, and like we were just kind of joking around and said, let's call ourselves something.
I remember the first time I heard of you guys and I watched you play, and I remember this is the only team that was super aggressive like we were. And I was like, I like that. I want to play against them, because any other team we played, if there was a game, if they wanted to even play play against us, they would sit in the back, not past the 20, and just sit in the little corner and just shoot and try to lob BBs at us.
Right.
You know, you were the only ones that actually pushed to the 50, and we tried to cross whatever that 50 marker was.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's a really huge parallel between like what happened with, you know, SYG and ML. After you guys kind of like took a break, there was a little bit of a lull, and then that's when MIA kind of broke up, and then that's when LTD formed.
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of happened with them, in that they saw us playing the way we play, we saw them playing the way they played, and it was just, again, that same natural attraction to each other. Like, whether or not, like, you couldn't avoid it. You know, sooner or later we're gonna meet up in the middle, and like we're gonna be like two dogs caged. You know,
Exactly.
like want to go at each other. Not that it's like we're trying to kill each other, but like the same thing kind of happened with them, and that, you know, we
gravitate towards that competitive nature.
Yeah, and like
no matter what you do.
when it was you know, SYG and ML,
Yeah.
that's when we were established Big Boy Thursdays.
Yeah,
you
Big
know,
Boy
and that was kind of the
Thursdays,
birth of the first time where time was set aside for guys like us.
Yeah.
where we could just play how we wanted to play,
No
without
complaining, no crying.
without worrying about, you know, ruining someone's time, like whether, you know, like, you know, like father and son were gonna go play. Like, we didn't want to be there, like, you know, spraying them up and like, you know, killing their fun. So like, we wanted to have our own kind of fun.
Yep.
And then so like when, you know, that established Big Boy Thursdays, and then when it was SYG and LTD, that's when the first games were played on Sundays, and that's when it was like loosely, you know, at that time we already started throwing the word SpeedQB around, and we decided to call it like a very informal SpeedQB Sunday, you know, and that's kind of
that's
how it happened with
because I was gone.
LTD.
I was gone at that point. I think when LCD had just came together, I was slowly leaving the scene. I was still playing because I remember playing them, but I was slowly leaving the scene. I had obviously, you know, career obligations and schooling and shit like that, you know.
But it's interesting too, because, you know, those are guys that we all already knew, like Figgy and Manny, like they were already in MIA, we had already played with them, but like things changed up as soon as they joined another team, because I mean, I don't really remember how the old MIA playstyle was. Like, I only remember the new MIA playstyle, you know what I mean? Like, so like when LTD started, they were a much more tactical team. So when we were playing against you guys, it was fast versus fast. And then when it was like SYG versus LTD, it became like fast and aggressive versus like a still fast and aggressive team, but they played a little bit of a slower tactical game. So that was very interesting, and it goes back to what I was saying about teams and their character.
Yeah.
You know, every team kind of has this distinct, you know, trademark to them. You know, whether it's the way that you know, you guys looked with your loadouts, with the OD, and like the mixture of like all the different earthy colors, and then, you know, LTD at the time, of course, with the black and tan, very iconic. You know, and then SYG with black and white.
But I think for us, it was awesome just to have another team to be competitive about and to see as hardcore as us. Even it was and have a completely different style than us. You know what I mean? It was hard to come across, you know, teams that wanted to actually go toe to toe, you know, head to head, and to one of the things I can't stand when people say is, oh, you know, it's just a game. It's just a game. It's just a game. Really, technically, every sport is just a game. You know, you have the argument of, oh, you're just throwing BBs at each other. All right, well, basketball players are just throwing a ball into a hoop. Football players are just bringing one ball to one end of the side to the other end of the side. Soccer's the same thing. Hockey's the same thing. You can break down any sport into a simplified version of it and call it a day. So to down talk it and to fall into it is, you know, you can't let that happen. So.
And not only that too, but I mean, besides even just the sport itself, but don't let anybody down talk the hobby as is. People might say that it's for kids or it's stupid or whatever it may be, but in reality, everybody's got something they're into. That.
And if you think it's just a hobby, try it out for the sport, and see if you like it for the sport. Don't just take it as a hobby. Try it.
Yeah, that could be either or for you. Yeah, it could be your hobby, it could be your sport. You know, it's whatever you want to make of it.
Yeah, I think we got a lot. I just don't know if we missed anything. I think we got everything.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it flowed pretty well.
Awesome.
Although number 7...
What was 7?
Sam was talking about.
SRG versus
Yeah, I basically
RTD.
segued how our shit was like Big Boy Thursdays.
Yeah.
And then in their absence, that's when like we needed another team to compete against, and that's when us and LTD got together, and that formed the first informal SpeedQB Sunday.
Oh, you guys did talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like I guess it was just kind of. That's what we had to like turn around because like we were on 6 by the time we turned on on Gilbert right now.
Dude, that's pretty awesome. Though.
Yeah. I think we got it.
We had
though.
a good combo.
I
Dude,
think we got
sick,
it,
man. All right, sorry. Last shot.
I think we got enough. I don't think.
yeah.
I think we have a lot actually, because we're not away from use all of it. GoPro, turn off. GoPro, stop recording.
Oh, and I think we can't park here.
GoPro, stop recording.